Good evening and welcome to COVID Cast number 24. Good evening. The day is April 6th, 2020. It is a Monday, and today I'm going to have a brief episode for you, just analyzing the Italian data because I think it tells us a lot about what we have to come here and what we're going to be seeing soon and what we should expect out of this pandemic. I think it's going to be a very good way to tell what's going to happen. So, we've been talking about Italy a lot on this channel because they were the first European country to really have an extremely widespread outbreak. Basically, today, something happened that we've been looking for now for a week. We had under 4,000 new cases reported, 3,599 new cases coming out of Italy. So, very, very hype. And the total new positives were 1,941. Pretty low number. The lowest we've seen is 1,648, but that had been on the rise, so a nice low number. Hopefully, my bet is that in a week we'll see that under 1,000, if not sooner. Dismissed, recovered, 1,022. Not incredibly high. I hope we see that getting to... I hope that passes, and I think it's going to pass the total number of cases pretty soon, of new cases pretty soon. Like I said, I'm going to guess in a week, hopefully. Deaths today, we saw 636 new deaths, so deaths continue to be a pretty huge problem with the Italian with the Italian system right now, but we are seeing a general decline in deaths right now. It seems like the peak of deaths was about 10 days ago. So, some good news out of Italy, but let's go to this graph here. The variation in new cases is what this means basically. Totali contagi means total number of people that got the disease on this day. Attualmente positivi is the total number of new positives when you subtract the new cases minus those whose cases resolved. Dismessi guariti is again recovered, and deceduti is deaths. So this chart provides a pretty nice analysis of what we can expect to see. And yesterday I talked about how the back end of this will be longer than the front end of this because we're not going to see an exponential decrease. It's going to be much more linear in the way we see these cases decrease. So we can kind of see this right here. If you look at these total numbers of cases, to me, just eyeballing it, it looks like the total number of new cases, the line on the upswing looks to be about maybe 1.5x to 2x the slope while it's going up. And you can see kind of where that peaks right there. Right around that dotted line, actually, I'd say, seems to be a very nice spot of where the peak is. And you can actually see it's pretty nice. This second dotted line here is when the country went on lockdown. So it's pretty nice. You can see here, this was March 22nd when Italy kind of seemed to have reached its peak and was kind of at this plateau for a while. And it was, let's see, I believe the 9th when they went into this lockdown. So from the 9th to the 23rd, that's about 14 days, so you can see the difference between a national lockdown and the peak, and then you see things start to trail off here. But as you can see, the trail off has been a lot slower than the initial rise up. So given that 14-day logic between when the national shutdown occurs and when the peak occurs, just based on what I'm seeing here, my guess would be that if it's 14 days to the peak, then it's probably 28 days until you get into a really manageable situation on the other side, if it looks to be about twice as long, that kind of slope. And otherwise, obviously, before you get to that same spot. So we'll see if that's right. Since kind of they said the peak, let's see, that was the 22nd, and today we're sitting here on the 6th. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So as you can see, it's been 14 days, 15 days now. So when it was 14 days, it was at 4,300 new cases per day, compared to the about 1,800 that it was when the shutdown started. So you can see, compared to the peak, it is about halfway. It seems like this general line is about half as steep on the downside. So my estimate that would be that they'll be at the same number of new cases that they were getting in maybe a little over 10 new days. So that's just some interesting data and something to keep in mind. And just the knowledge that otherwise, if they don't do this, they'll basically just restart that peak again. And that's the whole danger with this, because since we've been living with COVID for a while now, in the last few days, we really have started to see some positive results, and it's really good news for maybe avoiding some of these more cataclysmic death tolls, or these, hundreds of thousands death tolls in certain countries. It seems like maybe that is an avoidable fate right now, but it won't be if we reverse these things, because we want to keep the curve flat enough that we can take it out eventually. We don't want to kind of let it keep gyrating up and down as we get more serious and less serious. But overall, good news today, based on the Italian model. The one thing I would say is that all of Italy has been shut down, whereas all of the United States still isn't shut down. So certain states like New York, I believe, is somewhere around where Italy was right at the peak, honestly, right now, is what it seems like to me, as that New York is kind of at their peak. So we can guess that New York, maybe, by the end of April, actually, might be able to get out of their current lockdowns, whereas any place that started later will be later, and any place that started sooner will be sooner. That's kind of how we can base our approach. Since certain places have not taken action yet, I do think just in general, we can maybe flatten this curve out to May. Is probably sometime in May is a good goal for when we can maybe start to reopen things right now, but we'll just see. There's continued risk with once you try to restart things, because it's not like this is a result of people having herd immunity or so many people being immune that the virus can't spread easily. We're definitely not at that stage yet. So we still have more work to do, but some just positive news from Italy. I hope they're doing okay. They still have a lot of tough days ahead, and the aftermath is going to be absolutely horrible in Italy. The country is already at 16,523 total deaths, so already just a really horrific event in Italy. I mean, that's a lot. That's a lot of people, obviously. So, a grim situation in Italy, but also one that maybe gives us a little hope. So, thank you so much for listening. I hope you're having a marvelous Monday. And before I forget, here's my question of the day today for you. What are your top 3 colleges if you're a junior, or I guess now we're kind of seniors now the junior year is kind of done. But what are your top colleges? Give me 3 choices down in the comments below, and maybe a brief explanation of why those are your choices. All right, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you're having a magical, marvelous, mystical, wonderful Monday.